boy Marcus Norman from Gentleman Style Podcast, your host of the #1 podcast coming to you live in America. And today I have the absolute expert, Miss Samantha Dorm. She is a superstar senior consultant at Lexipol. Miss Samantha Dorm is serving FireGrantsHelp.com, EMSGrantHelp.com, and PoliceGrantsHelp. She first began working as a consultant for the grants division in digital marketing for her company Lexipol in 2010. Ms. Dorm has been instrumental in providing grant writing guidance to various public safety and nonprofit agencies throughout the United States to enable them to obtain alternative funding, as well as provide instruction on statistical compilation, analysis, and program development. Ms. Dorm is a reviewer for several federal agencies and also instructs grant writing workshops. Ms. Samantha has worked directly with agencies at all levels of governments to acquire over, you guessed it, $40 million in funding for various programs. Ms. Samantha is a reviewer for several federal agencies and also instructs grant writing workshops. So get in one of her classes. You are going to not want to miss a beat. So coming to the stage on Gentleman Style Podcast, the incredible, the amazing Miss Samantha Dorm. Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the stage. Thank you for coming to Gentleman Style Podcast show. Miss Samantha, I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and to educate us, because we as a society are not doing well right now. We are in a pandemic, we are in a recession, but you are here to help, and you are a public servant. I thank you so much, so much.
Oh, thank you. And I have to tell you, because you just said about you're here to help. That is the only reason that this girl did not cancel on you today. I was out shoveling snow 4 times. I was like, sweat my hair out. But people need help. So I'm here.
I appreciate you. That
vanity kicked in. I was like, ooh.
Oh my gosh. I appreciate it. If I was there, I'd shovel the snow for you. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I had to just step back and remember that some people have it a lot worse than I do right now. So we are going to make sure that we get them some help today.
Absolutely. I love that. Love that. See that? Public servant, y'all. So I want to start high level. What is a grant?
Well, first and foremost, for a grant, as long as you work with that application or work with your contract properly, you do not have to pay it back. So that's the biggest difference between a grant and a loan. As long as you manage it properly, grant money does not have to be paid back. But it is a legal binding contract when you accept the money, and there are terms that come with those contracts. And that's usually where people get hung up. It's really not the grant writing so much that is a problem. It's the grant administration that people tend to not think about when they're looking at these funds.
Wow. So this is money that doesn't have to be paid back. You're kidding, right? It sounds like too good to be true.
I'm not kidding. But as I said, as long as you do it properly, and I put that part in because so I've been doing this for a little over 20 years, and also with teaching some of the workshops that I've done, I've had people come to class and they'll say, oh yeah, I got my money. Mm-hmm. And then they go on to the next part of, and I spent it on this. And that's not what was in the application. So on any given day, you can Google right now, you're going to see that people are starting to get caught up in not managing it properly. There are penalties that include not just having to pay the money back, but could also result in someone going to jail. So you really have to read the fine print of the grant terms. So as I said, you do not have to pay it back as long as you manage it properly and you do with it what you said you were going to in the application.
Absolutely. So that's very important, right? A lot of people, I can imagine, mess that up. Is okay, I have this, I've done all the legwork, I've gone to your workshop, and now the capital I've received the funding for the business. Yeah. And so I can imagine a lot of people that mess up where is any of that money, can it be allocated to payroll? Can it, is that even allowed, or that's just going to be explained in the terms?
Well, the first part of that is when you're looking at grant opportunities to, one, make sure that you're applying for funds that match up with what you really and truly need. And if it doesn't, then move to the next opportunity. Every grant is different. There would be, some opportunities that will pay for payroll. Others will have some stipulations where they'll tell you something like, we'll pay up to a certain percentage of your payroll. And you have to know where the rest of that percentage is going to come from before you go and accept that first half or whatever that percentage may be. But all of that is spelled out in the application, which is known, usually they'll call it an RFP, which is request for proposals, or just the guidelines, and that information would be spelled out there.
Perfect. Whew! I was worried. I was scared. I thought there was no, there was no way for me to know, or am I supposed to just continue to lean on you and learn? But that makes perfect sense. It's going to be labeled out and discussed beforehand before even accepting the funds. So,
correct. Well, and even before writing for the funds. But we do need to tell Brandon that if he can find a grant that will pay for a Tesla, hit me up, because I could use one too.
No, Brandon, we're not getting a Tesla, Mr. Brandon. We're not using funds for Tesla. Elon Musk has plenty. We're
but
not
maybe
doing that.
He has grant opportunities for helping small businesses because Tesla is doing so well.
There you go. And there might be a Tesla in there. Hint, hint. No, I'm just kidding. Who is eligible to apply for grants, Miss Dorm? What kind of businesses?
Sure. And again, it depends on the grant that you're looking to apply to. And simple rule of thumb is always check. There's usually a section that says eligibility, and look in that section. And if it's going to tell you whether that's going to be, state, local government entities, a nonprofit, or if it is for a for-profit, it will tell you that. One thing, for many for-profits, oftentimes they will just, look at those guidelines and say, oh, I can't apply for this, and they'll move on, as opposed to thinking about partnering with an eligible entity. So if that nonprofit can apply and you're working with the nonprofit, now instead of applying for the grant direct, you're going to work through the nonprofit to essentially be a contractor or a service provider to them. So either way, you're still getting business. You just might not be the direct applicant.
So okay, I need some help on breaking that down. Help me. I'm speaking for me, y'all. I'm a little slow. So help me break that down. I can actually work through another business and that business be awarded the grant funds through the work that we did together?
Possibly, yes. So, and of course, it's going to depend on the service that you're providing. Let's think in regards to technology and anybody that has a tech-based company, who are they selling their product to, or trying to sell that product to? Can that entity apply for grants and then in turn contract that with them for their product? So as we have here, I know, I had the pleasure of speaking to you a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about your show. And I was saying to you that, this in itself is a product. And so, right now, particularly with the pandemic, and certainly with working with Black and Brown communities, we're trying to get the word out to our communities. So we need to go to where those platforms are, like yours. So it may be through the Department of Health or health systems that could contract with you to help them get the word out. So, it becomes a part of their marketing budget for that Department of Health grant. So you just saw all this CARES Act money that has gone out now with 2 different allocations. Part of their funding through the Department of Health could possibly be, how are we messaging to our communities? So I know where I'm at here in Pennsylvania, I'm seeing billboards everywhere. Are people stopping and seeing the billboards? Okay, they're there, but where else can we go to get that message? And I'm coming to Marcus.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. I love that a lot. You all, this is incredible, Miss Samantha. I told you guys, we have the expert on the channel delivering incredible information. I didn't even think that level. And I did my homework. You gave me some homework, and I
Okay, I
did
did.
do it.
You did or you did not?
I did.
Okay, and
Nothing yet. No feedback. No phone calls yet. So, but I'm going to follow up on the homework you gave. She gave me some homework, y'all. So as she said that, that's a real life example. Because that makes sense. Major hospital, major health organizations have to get the word out, and so them partnering with you could allow them to be awarded this grant or a certain grant, and in partnership with you, you become an expense on their payroll, because they're paying you to help get it out to the media.
correct.
So that's what she's talking about. That is incredible. We are going to go to a quick commercial break. You all don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we'll be back with the incredible Miss Samantha Dorm. Yay!
I'm Marcus Norman, bringing fresh vibes to hot topics surrounding culture, relationships, business, finance, sex, dating, faith, and everything in between. Whether you're into passive income opportunities, trending topics and useful relationship tips, or dynamic guest speakers, there's something for everyone. You can expect all that and more every week. If you're down with this content, then consider joining our growing community by subscribing to Gentleman Style Podcast and smash the bell to get on our VIP list. Your support means the world. Thanks for watching. Link to my channel.
Everybody, we are back. We have the incredible Miss Samantha Dorm, and she just spilled some wonderful, delicious tea on grants and how you can possibly not meet the full requirements of the grant yourself, but partner through someone or organization that is applying for grants or is currently receiving funding from grants. That is amazing. So, Miss Samantha, can a for-profit, we touched on nonprofit, but can a for-profit entity apply for grants? Or is it typically they try to focus on the nonprofits?
Again, it depends on the funder. There are a number of funders out there that are making things eligible for profit. And then sometimes you'll have like a research and development type of grant. It's just a number of different things. But also, in this past year, I will say, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm seeing things funded now that have never been funded in the past because, corporations are stepping up to try and help and specifically trying to help small businesses. And then we have that other piece of it of, helping Black and brown communities. So I've been saying this a lot lately, and I put this out there that, social responsibility, social justice has to be more than just a tagline on a website. So for all of these big businesses that are, saying, hey, we believe in this, go to their website, put in the word grant or put in the word community and see if they're backing up their words with their funds. And many of them are. And in some cases, it's not necessarily maybe, cash or a check that's coming your way. They're providing services or resources to small businesses where you may have something like a FedEx that'll say, hey, apply for this grant. And their version of the grant is that they're going to give you discounts on your shipping. That they may, give you up to, say, $500 worth of shipping that would help you with your costs, getting your product out there.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. So we have a question. We're going to take questions from the audience now. This is an opportune time, and I love this question. Thank you, Ms. Shanique. So we have the question, is there a centralized location to locate all the grants that are out there? And that's coming from Miss Samantha Grace Durden.
I did see that. So she has an awesome name. So we've got to give her a great answer. So first and foremost, if you're looking at government grants, most of those are going to be housed under grants.gov. So that was grants plural, grants.gov. And that's going to hit anything at the federal government level. Then it gets a little more tricky. And so, each state kind of has its own websites. Your community foundations have their own websites. And there are various search engines out there that have both free and a pay for service. So for what we do with Lexipol.com, we do have a grant search engine, which is our grants.gov platform. I'm sorry, our grant finder platform. But also through COVID, what we've done is we have a team of people that, we're putting a lot of the resources out there for free on our website to help our small businesses. So people can go to the website and they'll see some of the free opportunities there for any of the grants. I think the easiest thing for me is I've gone to a number of different sites and I'll put in my email address and sign up for like their newsletter, or I'll sign up for notices so that that information is coming directly to me. It helps take a lot of the guesswork out of it.
That is incredible. I hope that helps, Miss Samantha. That helped me. As you all saw, I snuck off there and took some notes. I am taking the unique thing about being on a podcast is the show is mine, so I get to take notes as freely as I want, and I can go back and watch this.
Absolutely.
So that is incredible. So a centralized location for nonprofits and profits to go and actually search through and apply for grants. Is that correct? Did we understand that correctly?
That is correct. And then one of the things that you and I talked about the other week that I kind of challenge people to, when it comes to grants, yes, I'm giving away all the secrets here today. It's really about the problem that you're trying to solve. So it's the problem that drives the funding. So like with my nephew, he runs a boxing program here for kids in our town. And, so he comes to me, hey, Aunt Sam, I need money for boxing. I'm like, nope. And he's just looking at me. I'm like, it's not a boxing program. He said, what do you mean? It's a boxing program. I've been doing it. I'm like, no, it's not. It's delinquency prevention. It's health and wellness. That's what's going to fund the boxing program at the end of the day. Okay? Because the problem with a number of those kids, they were coming from neighborhoods that were low income, high crime rate, specifically gun-related violence taking place in that area. Those are the things that are going to bring in the funding.
Ooh. That reminds me of the passage of scripture in the Bible that talks about he who serves, right? And so what is your company doing the most good? Who are you serving, right? If you're going into business to just benefit yourself, then you shouldn't be in business. And I love that. That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah. So with our company, for what I do with Lexipol, and mind you, I wear many hats for what I'm doing, and also have the luxury where at my age, yes, I said it, that I'm able to take kind of some liberties with the projects that I decide to bring on. So with the company itself, we primarily work with public safety, as well as educational institutions, our K through 12 schools. So, we have police grants help, fire grants help, EMS grants help, education grants help, with all these different platforms. And I mention that because what people don't realize is that those services are sponsored. So there are products that are on there, a lot of the major companies. And so if you go on, to one of those sites and you're interested in one of those products, like Motorola radios, or for if you're with paramedics and you need new AEDs, whoever that manufacturer is, they're paying for people like me to do the research specific to your area or your agency on funding. And then for free, we're going to look at what's available: federal, state, local, community foundations, corporate foundations. I'll check, where's the Chamber of Commerce? What type of businesses do you have in your area? And then outside of that, I do work on my, I'm going to say pet projects, as far as with, nonprofits and things on that line, with a team of other individuals as well. So, there's a lot of us out here. Specific to Lexipol, we have 40 writers that specialize in different areas with that.
Absolutely. So that leads me to my next question. how much time does it take to put together a grant proposal?
Great question. When I do my class, I have a slide that I put up that tells you that the actual grant writing component is probably only about 10 to 15% of what's actually going to go into that application.
Wow.
The rest of the time is all of the documents and all of the information you need to get to the point where you can sit down and write. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So part of that, as I mentioned about identifying the problem. And once you've identified a problem, you have to have some statistics or data to back it up. How do we know that it's a problem? So that data might not necessarily be housed within your agency or your entity. So let's talk about for you. We're going to help Marcus here today. When we talk about, looking at, who needs to get the message out there? How many different health systems are there in your area? How many people are there in your area? Do they have a targeted message that they're trying to get across? So now we need to look at their demographics. We need to know about, sometimes educational attainment. You would think that educational attainment has absolutely nothing to do with getting money for the fire department, but it does. So the fire department and these other entities need to be able to have working relationships. For our businesses, for our nonprofits, same thing. Many times we're relying on data from groups or entities that have nothing to do with what we're trying to be out there. And we've got to be able to prove that there is a problem. So outside of that, then you're pulling together, this one trips people up all the time, a budget.
What?
A budget. I would ask folks all the time, you'll have small businesses that have been in business for a very long time. I was watching some of your other speakers from previous weeks. We all say the same thing, even though we're working in different areas. Everybody's so used to, dealing with the day-to-day aspect of the hustle. Okay, I got to get this done. So I'm going to go back to my nephew about, doing the boxing program. And I said to him, you have parents that are donating to the program. He said, what do you mean? I said, I've seen parents come in here with Clorox and cleaning supplies. And he's, well, yeah, we have to clean the equipment. So we asked them to donate. And I said, document it. He said, why am I documenting? I said, it's an in-kind contribution. If they did not bring that in, you still had to clean the equipment. How much did those cleaning supplies cost? Because at the end of the day, you need to know if your program or your business is going to cost $50,000 a year to operate or $500,000 a year. So you have to have a budget.
That
what you need and how much does it cost?
That is major. That's hit home. I think that's the biggest slip up that most businesses mess up on. At a minimum, is the budget and knowing what your P&L is, knowing what your profit and loss is. Would you advise businesses, the one person that they need on their team is a CPA or a bookkeeper, a good bookkeeper?
Yes, absolutely. Like, work with we all have strengths and weaknesses. So build your team and have those assets. And part of that, if you're not an accountant, get one. Is really what it comes down to, as well as in some of those other things. If you're not real good at putting together the budget, and when I say about putting together that budget, it's funny. Sometimes with classes where I'll laugh, I'm talking about building it out with specifics, meaning don't just put that you need a printer. Are you going to need ink for the printer? Are you going to need paper to print the things that the ink is printing on, and following the whole way through? Do you need a desk to put the printer on? How much did the desk cost? People kind of don't do that. So I think that the funniest thing is I can tell you, I was working years ago with one of our tactical teams, and they were so excited because, we were finally able to get them at that point, like an armored vehicle for active shooter situation. Okay. But they kind of forgot to budget for some things for the vehicle. So it wouldn't be roadworthy.
Like
So
tires.
there's little things like, I don't know, you got to have, the title, the license plate, the insurance. Did you talk to the people over in HR or in risk management to make sure that you can get the vehicle insured before you bought the vehicle? And the same thing happens all the time, in whether it's working for government or working for nonprofits. So when I'm doing my class, you interrupt me when you need to. When I do my class, one of the exercises we do is I have a group exercise where we plan a scavenger hunt. And everyone just kind of looks at me. But I worked many years ago in Parks and Recreation, and I had 10 playgrounds scattered throughout the city. And every single day, I had to drive from playground to playground to playground because my staff, we would all meet at the same place in the morning. They would grab their gear and their items for the day, and they would go to their respective parks. And every single day, somebody forgot something on each park because they didn't know how to plan. And that was just stressing me out. So we plan a scavenger hunt where I go to the point of, well, where's your scavenger hunt going to be? Oh, we're going to go to this location. Really? How are you getting there? Do you need permission slips? What day are you sending the permission slips out? What day do you need them back? How are you getting there? Oh, we want a van. Do you have money for the van? Do we have to rent the van, or can we use the van? Did you put in a request for the van? And I walk them through all of that for a scavenger hunt. Because if you can do that with your business, you can do that for grants. It's not pretty words going into an application that gets you your money. It's the details of having a plan, a solid plan.
I love that. I love that. We got to pay some bills, y'all, but we will be right back. We got one more commercial break, and we don't need them. I'm not even going to make that joke. I was going to say cutting the lights off, but that's not funny. That's terrible. There are people that need lights right now, but we'll be right back. I love you guys. See you soon.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
Hey everybody, we are right back. We have the incredible Miss Samantha Dorm on Gentleman Style Podcast today. We are on all major platforms. We're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we are on anywhere that media can be streamed or seen. And Miss Samantha Dorm of Lexipol is spilling the grant writing tea. So Miss Samantha, I have to ask, this has been bugging me for a while because I know that I lack the due diligence to take my business down to the finer parts. So I'm going to need some help. And so at that point, I already know that I'm going to need assistance from a grant writer, right? And there are people who do what you do on a much smaller scale, because she's up here, y'all. She's up here. But on a much smaller scale, what should I look for in a grant writer who's going to help me break my business down to its finer points so I can apply for grants?
Ooh, you're going to test me on that one, aren't you?
I need to.
Well, and rightly so. It's funny because I kind of get irritated now. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. You mentioned LinkedIn. When I go on LinkedIn, everybody's profile now is everybody is a grant expert. They took one class in college, or they helped provide information on an application at their job, and I'm just like, ugh. So I really need people to ask questions, like real questions. By that, I had some folks that will interview with us, and people will be enamored with the amount of money. Oh, this person brought in $100 million. Okay, tell me about the type of grant. Because there are some grants out there that are known as formula grants that agency was going to get that money anyway. They had to fill out the application. I don't put that in my number as a success. It's something that I've worked on, but I don't include that in, I work with competitive grants. So, one of those questions when you're looking at any grant writer is going to be not just, how many grants have you successfully been able to help agencies obtain, but also were they competitive applications? Were those federal, state, was it a corporation? You have some grants that may be 10 pages long and others that are going to end up being, 300 and 400 pages. So it's not one size fits all. See if that person has experience in the area that you're looking at. I personally, I could probably figure out education grants, but that's not my area of expertise. So I work with people that I can refer folks to, and if it's something that I'm not confident that I can do myself, then again, there's no harm in doing those referrals. So really just asking people questions. For me personally, I don't like to just throw out a price for grant writing unless I know exactly what application we're applying for that simple part of, you don't know if it's a 10 page or a 300 page. And there are some people that will go and they'll charge you a flat rate. Well, that may be great for those bigger grants, but if this was something that you probably could have done yourself and maybe just needed another set of eyes on or whatever, do you really want to pay $2,500, $3,000 or whatever it may be? So, for some, when you're asking, some will do a flat rate, others will do an hourly rate, in which they will look at those guidelines. They'll look at the amount of work that's going to be involved with that grant, and they can provide you with that scope of work to say, okay, this is going to be, $40 an hour at $75 an hour, or, whatever that may be. So it's really about asking questions. Do they have experience in the area that you're looking at? What was that experience like? So don't be too thrilled with the, the total dollar amount. On my resume, I don't talk about how much money that I've been able to bring in. The very first thing was able to maintain fiscal and programmatic compliance. We were able to spend all of the money correctly. We didn't send money back, and nobody went to jail.
That's a win.
That's my claim to fame: fiscal and programmatic compliance.
That's a win.
Fiscal and programmatic compliance, when you show that you can manage somebody's money correctly, they're more likely to give you more money.
That makes sense. They'll come back to you. And so I want to touch on two very important things that you just said. I don't want these things to be missed. So you said, in regards to a grant writer, get an expert in the area of your field, and they have to be compensated. Obviously, is the compensation based off of the hourly rate, or can they be paid based off of the amount that I am awarded in the grant?
I knew you were going to ask that.
I
knew you were going to ask that. And again, I don't want to get into the tug of war of what other people do. There are some standards out there. You can look on some of the sites like the Grant Professionals Association. There are people that are getting their grant professional credentials, a GPC, as well as some other opportunities. But you can look and see. So in most cases now, it is payment up front. So there will be a set rate. It's not a percentage on the back end, but I do know that there are some folks that still do that. We do not. So just ask questions for what those amounts represent.
Absolutely. And so the reason why I bring that up, y'all, and the reason why I wanted Miss Samantha to help us in that area is because the reason for that is because you can imagine there's some shady characters out here. That's why I had to get her on the show. I absolutely had to get her on the show because there are people out here who are, like she said, posing. They fulfilled they were awarded one grant, and now they instantly become the overnight expert. And now, hey, join my course. Just make 3 easy payments of $99.99, and now I'll help you get your grant as well. That's not it, right? That's not it. And so it also prevents shady people from saying, well, the more money you win, the more I'll pay you. That's why there's a cost to there's a upfront cost. Hey, pay me first and we'll do the work later on. So that's what
But
that
if
prevents.
I can, I mean,
You
here's a prime example of what happens. And if you are looking at applying for federal grants, you have to have something known as a DUNS number, okay, Dun and Bradstreet. And that DUNS number has to be registered in sam.gov. So sam.gov, okay, got that, sam.gov. Well, the thing about sam.gov, to register, it's free. But there are corporations out there that are charging people $599 to help you apply for your sam.gov. It's time consuming, but it's free. So, but people will get into this thing because what happens is when they go ahead and they get their DUNS number now, they can see you publicly, and like trolls, they'll start calling up those companies, or they'll send emails and say, you need to complete your registration, and to complete it, go to this site. And it's not, make sure you got that .gov behind it. Sam.gov is free. Now, the other piece of that, earlier we talked about, if you can't apply for the grant directly and you're going to work with another business or agency, that they're going to pay you for a service, you cannot be that service provider. They can't contract with you for a federal grant, and in many cases for a state grant over a certain amount of money. It's like $20,000 or $25,000, unless you have that sam.gov registration. Okay, so they can't come to you as a vendor unless you do that. So again, it's free. You can do that right now today, just in case you get a contract later, or you can continue going out there and going for the $5,000 or $10,000 contracts here and there. But if you want to be able to get a government contract with a business or entity, you need to get registered under sam.gov. It's free.
It's free. Don't get taken advantage of. Please, please, please. That's why I had Miss Samantha here, the expert, to say that. We needed to say that. So we have another great question from our twin, Miss Samantha Grace. What's the typical time frame, application to disbursement to receive a grant?
Again, it varies. There are some, particularly when you're dealing with the community foundations or corporate foundations, it could be 30 to 60 days. We also have some that could be 4 to 5 months with that. So, really, yes, really kind of planning things out. Government grants, right now, most of what I'm seeing in the queue are going to be certainly some of the criminal justice, but the OJJDP, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. It's easier to just go into grants.gov and look and see. So, you might have 5 or 6 weeks to put in your application, but then those project start dates are like October 1st of this year, or even January 1st of 2022. So again, you're looking at not just, hey, this is how much money we need, but when do you need that money? Because when you need it may also change course of which grant you're going to apply for based on when are they making those funds available. If you need funds in June of this year, you've probably already missed the window on federal grants. So now you're looking at state and community foundations.
And you say grants, so you can apply for more than one?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even sometimes, I tend to tell people with projects, if it's like a larger ticket item, those really high price, if there's any way to break that out into phases, that phase 1, phase 2, because of not knowing how the money is going to come through, or better yet, if they're breaking that down into, you mentioned earlier, will some grants pay for payroll? Right. The best thing you can do is, or when you have that budget, looking at that budget, at the end of the day, your entire budget might not come from a single source, but do you care as long as you can still, at the end of the day, get the total amount that you need? So if your payroll has to come from this funding source, and then you're using a different grant that's going to be for your supplies or your contracted services, go ahead and do that. Full disclosure on all of them. Let them know, hey, I've applied over here. I've applied over here. Usually that'll help you get extra points because they want to see that you're being resourceful with that. The other thing that I will say, for many of our communities, and what I'm not seeing much of, we talk about opportunity zones, and you heard, last year, a lot of people talking about opportunity zones, and they forget that impacts grants as well. So if you are servicing, or if you're physically located in an opportunity zone and you're applying for a federal grant, simply mentioning you're servicing or that you are in an opportunity zone automatically gives you several points. Those are prioritized for funding. They want to help those areas. And so we look at opportunity zones just in regards to the purchase of real estate and tax reductions and things on that line. No, opportunity zones are to help our schools. Opportunity zones are certainly to help with housing, but also business development, criminal justice programs, folks reentry, folks coming out of incarceration. Those all get priority points under opportunity zones.
I love how you brought that up, and I love how you segued into that, because that's major, and that's all a part of the application process. I wanted to read the definition of an opportunity zone for my audience who may not know what that is. An opportunity zone is a designation and investment program created by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, allowing for certain investments in lower income areas to have tax advantages. So I wanted everyone to know that, so we can dial into what Miss Samantha Dorm is saying. So I didn't want that to fly over anyone's head. So thank you for that, for breaking
Absolutely.
that down. Miss Samantha, what advice would you give someone out in the audience trying to take their business to the next level and getting started with their first grant?
Read, look at resources that are out there, become familiar with some of the terms. For the most part with the grants, it's a lot of the things that you're already doing. Normally we would talk about our business plan, and maybe in the grant they're looking for your program plan or your development strategy, or sometimes they call it an implementation plan. At the end of the day, it's your business plan. So don't be intimidated by the vocabulary. Okay. There are a number of free resources that are available online, including like some modules that are out there that would be, maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. So, taking the time to look at that type of information, and don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the big thing. For me, I'm not going to say ain't too proud to beg, but I'm not shy about calling potential funders and saying, hey, tell me about this grant. Rule of thumb is, for competitive grants, if the grant is not open, they'll talk to you. They want you to be successful with the programs. But once the grant opens, because they're competitive, everybody has to be on an equal playing field. So you're going to get a lot more information by being able to, send that email, look at those resources. There are a number of guidelines that are out there. And then the last thing I will say, because this just happened recently, where I said about money's flowing. I have some folks, family, that were able to get a $250,000 grant.
Woo!
And yes, and they came to me with the contract, and they said, now what do we do? And I looked, and I was like, wow, because it was a situation where they were trying to hurry up and get the money out. So, as somebody that teaches grant writing, I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, you didn't answer this, and this. So I don't know how this got funded, but they wanted to get the money out, COVID. Everybody's trying to move money fast. But now that they have the money, now it's over on the fiscal side, deal with the auditors. And now they have to manage it properly. So I was going down each step with them. And they said to me, Samantha, they didn't tell us that up front. And I said, yes, they did. They said, no, they didn't. That wasn't in there. On the guidelines now, it used to be a book, you get a big stack of paper. They don't do that anymore. It's now maybe 4 or 5 pages, for the guidelines, but within those pages, there are links. Click here. People forget to click here.
Right,
So
right.
if you pull up, any grant that you see, I would encourage anybody, go and find a grant application with the guidelines and review it. And then just kind of say, okay, what would I have to do to be able to apply to this? And click on the links.
I love that. I love that in diving deep. And so we can educate ourselves, y'all. The tools and the resources are out there. We have to be informed, and we have to dive deep. And because just like the example, what I got from that, the example wasn't to say that, oh, it's easy money or it's easy or anyone can achieve it. But look what happened, $250,000. And now we're backtracking, right? Because now we got the money and we don't know what to do with it to remain compliant. So I love that. Miss Samantha, what is your favorite way to give back to the community?
My favorite way of giving back to the community, and it varies. But one, for me, I do it in my hometown. A lot of free opportunities. I tell people, like, I don't have time to serve on many different boards or organizations. In addition to, certainly working this job, I also have a special needs child, which takes, a lot of time and commitment. So what I will tell folks is that, I can do things like this. I can, provide information and knowledge now, more so than being out there, in the community. So I do work to share this type of information. So I would say that's definitely a highlight. And then outside of that, because I have a special needs individual in my household, my loved one, I'm always trying to remind folks of their needs, not just my son's needs, but their needs also, because we have a whole kind of forgotten population, particularly now with folks being at home. But like where I'm at, we participate in Special Olympics. We participate in the Down Syndrome Association and different things. And very rarely will I see anyone there from the city. And very rarely will I see anyone there that's Black. And it's like, okay, I know that we have children and family members that have special needs. Let's uplift them as well. And sometimes we just have to remind them. So, what do I like to do? I like to educate and share that knowledge. Knowledge means nothing if you don't share it.
Big facts. Huge facts. That is absolutely the 100% truth. And you are absolutely giving back to the community. I consider what you're doing today. I appreciate you because this is major. I didn't know. Just
Marcus, I have to interrupt you just one moment.
You're fine.
Or I'm going to get in trouble because I see what's sitting behind me. I'm a math science person. I was never interested in history growing up. It just, kind of would go over my head. And 2 years ago, I lost some family members, and I decided to volunteer to help clean up a cemetery, not knowing what I was getting into. So what do I do in my spare time? We have a historic Black cemetery here in York, Pennsylvania. And so I'm researching and educating people about the incredible accomplishments of our people. So I don't know about you, but with my family, we never really talked about, well, what did Grandpa do, or, things like that. We talked about, the funny things. And we're finding that we have, bishops, we have doctors and lawyers, for someone to be that first graduate of the high school in 1868 and go on to be the principal of the Black school, the only Black school in the county, and they're in our cemetery. That's what I do. So advocating for the, thank you, we're Friends of Lebanon Cemetery. But this is happening all across the United States, that, our African-American cemeteries, our Black cemeteries are forgotten. And there's a whole initiative out there in the network of people that are working to make their presence known, we have accomplished great things.
I love that. Thank you. I'm glad you interrupted me. I was wondering, I was like, wait, is she gonna talk about something?
I would be in so much trouble on that one.
It is absolutely okay. Miss Samantha, how can my audience connect with you? How can people grow with you and grow and connect with you and continue to learn from you?
Well, certainly, I can be contacted. You put the information up with Friends of Lebanon Cemetery. I'm one of the administrators. I can be found there. But through Lexipol, if you want to put up my email address, it's just SDorm. That's SDORM. That's M as in Mary at Lexipol.com. And then I can route that through with our team. It's not necessarily me that you're going to be working with. As I said, we have a full team of people right now. Our operations are primarily in San Francisco and Texas. So right now, the rest of us in different parts of the country are kind of carrying the load for our colleagues in Texas and wishing everyone there well as they are managing the current situation. So we're here to help. I'm here to help. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Marcus. I thank you for this opportunity today.
I thank you. I thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and giving back and serving your community in this way. I know this was impactful. It was impactful to me. And thank you all of the Gentleman Style Podcast family. I appreciate you all for tuning in. And I hope this message has served you well. And I hope we can get Miss Samantha Dorm back in the future. Hint, hint, wink, wink. As she grows and as things change and as the dynamics of grants change, I hope to get her back in about 6 months to a year on the show so we can continue to grow with you.
We want to hear when you get your first contract.
Yes, I will. I receive that. I receive that in Jesus' name. Amen. Let the church say amen. Thank you all for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast show. We appreciate you. I love you guys. I hope this message was served you and it was impactful. Like I always say, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman, Gentleman Style Podcast, and the incredible, amazing Miss Samantha Dorm of Lexipol.com signing off. Love you guys.